news. There is money being thrown around overnight while you were sleeping. Carlos Correa and the Minnesota Twins agreed to a 3-year deal worth over $105 million. All right, MLB Network, Jon Heyman says it best. Correa to the Twins, $105.3 million for 3 years. So for the details on this, plus we've got some other news, let's welcome in another MLB Network insider, Jon Morosi. JP, good to see you on this Saturday morning. Carlos Correa was looking for a deal in upwards of $300 million. He gets a $105 million deal, but there's some caveats that could see him back on the free agent market again after next season. Explain.
Correct, Fran, and good morning. What a night in baseball. We rarely use the word stunning, but I think that was the reaction around the industry last night, or early this morning, I should say, at the news that Correa is going to Minnesota. And you're correct, Fran. While a lot of us believe that at the beginning of the offseason, Correa was on track to compete with Lindor's money above $300 million. The market did change a bit during the course of the offseason, and to your point, there are a couple positive aspects of this deal, even in a shorter-term look. Number one, highest average annual value ever for a position player in free agency, just barely eclipsing Anthony Rendon's AAV. So again, that's according to Bob Nightingale. And also, when you consider what you just referenced about the opt-outs, Correa can opt out after this season, 2022. He can also opt out after 2023. So it's a creative structure for the deal. The team does take on the risk of a 3-year deal, obviously, but Correa has that option to come back in the marketplace after 2022, perhaps imagining, Fran, that his course will be something similar to what Marcus Semien did there with the Toronto Blue Jays. The 1-year deal in Toronto, huge numbers. He came back out and got a tremendous contract from the Texas Rangers. So perhaps that's part of Correa's thinking right now.
All right, so the Twins must figure, at least for 2022, they're in this thing because they have been one of the more busy teams here this offseason. As we look at the additions that they've added here, you've got Sonny Gray, Gary Sanchez, Gio Urshela, and now Carlos Correa.
It is a time, Fran, where I think name tags will be required in the Twins clubhouse. A lot of new faces, but certainly a lot of notable names. When you look at it, that's a very new-looking infield. And you've got Urshela at third with Correa at short, Sanchez behind the plate. First of all, the Twins pitching staff, which now includes Sonny Gray and Dylan Bundy, will love the left side of the infield defense. Urshela at times has been looked upon as a shortstop. You now have him at third. That moves Polanco to second. It's a really, really good overall everyday club for the Minnesota Twins, a team that we thought, Fran, after a very disappointing 2021, that perhaps they were going to begin a rebuild. Quite the opposite right now. So it's a very winnable American League Central, and I do think, Fran, there are probably a number of teams, perhaps even Correa's original team, the Houston Astros, wondering if they might have been able to match this deal the Twins put out there for Carlos Correa.
All right, more on the Twins coming up with the Do Young Park, who covers the Twins for MLB.com, but more with JP right now, and a deal that you were jumped in on in terms of the money. Nicholas Castellanos going to the Philadelphia Phillies, and you had the money right, $100 million. Jeff Passan had the deal first here from ESPN. But the Phillies already added some thump, and Kyle Schwarber. Castellanos must have been too good for the taking while he was out there.
Well, Fran, relationships matter and they help. And you go back 12 years, Dave Dombrowski was the president and GM of the Tigers when Castellanos was their first pick in the draft. And now 12 years later, they are reunited in Philadelphia with what, as you point out, our former colleague Joe Girardi is going to love the offense that he has to work with this season. Kyle Schwarber, of course, just having arrived. This probably puts Kyle Schwarber into the DH spot and Castellanos now into left field with Harper in right, Herrera in center. You see the alignment right there. And I want to take a step back a bit, Fran, and make this point. This is where there is the indirect benefit of the universal DH to the player's side. We talk about the new CBA. Even though Castellanos is not going to be the Phillies' DH, the ability to have Schwarber be the DH is what gave Castellanos $100 million from the Philadelphia Phillies. So it's important to keep that context in mind in terms of the rising tide lifting all the boats, so to speak. This will help free agency going forward in ways that are not even directly discernible in this case. Now, we talked about the Phillies lineup, and we saw it a moment ago about the way their defensive alignment might look. The infield is still the question. And can Didi Gregorius get back to his defensive form of the past? Alec Baum over at third base, Gene Segura at second. You're going to be relying on a Phillies rotation to deliver a lot of strikeouts. Fortunately, Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola can do that.
And with the numbers that Castellanos has put up the last couple of years, would you say he's, one of the top 10 hitters, in all of baseball?
I believe that, and certainly he is someone that could be a batting champ in the future, Fran. You see what he's done certainly in 2021 with the Cincinnati Reds. He has really matured as a hitter. He's really grown up. I think his approach is different. You can just tell his athleticism has improved. I think he's actually gotten to be a better defender as well, Fran. That was a big knock on him during his time with the Tigers. I think with a bit more analytics, a bit more work that he's put in during the off seasons, I believe he's a much more adequate defender than he was even a few years ago. So Castellanos has taken a lot of pride in his work and just contact, bat-to-ball skills, gap-to-gap hitting as needed, and certainly Philadelphia, a great place to hit. So I think Castellanos there with Harper, and reportedly, according to our John Heyman, Bryce Harper very instrumental in the recruiting effort to bring Nick Castellanos to Philadelphia.
Yeah, Castellanos has some edge to him. They're going to love him in that clubhouse. Big Bad Bryce is going to love him as well. And the Phillies fans, he is a different kind of cat. He should add some explosiveness to not only that lineup, but the clubhouse. One more note to tell you about here. Kenley Jansen. He goes from the Dodgers, the only home he's ever known as a pro. He's going to go to the Atlanta Braves to strengthen up their bullpen. Tell us about that deal.
Well, Fran, first of all, I love, this time of year we talk about brackets. I'm not sure if anybody had their Final Four for the week as Correa to the Twins, Story to the Wright to the Rockies,
right.
Freeman to the Dodgers, and now Kenley to Atlanta. Yeah. Whoa, this has been quite a 72 hours for us, Fran. It's been remarkable.
Kentucky already screwed up my bracket, but go ahead with Jansen.
Right, exactly. St. Peter's, oh my gosh. So here we have perhaps the St. Peter's surprise of the baseball hot stove season with Kenley going to Atlanta. And Freeman, of course, having gone to the Dodgers just basically that same day. But a couple things to stand out here. Number one, we know the Braves really relied on that bullpen a lot during the course of the postseason run. You see it there, good balance. They can now have Will Smith sliding into a more of an eighth-inning role along with Tyler Matzik. They've got A.J. Minter as well, and Newcomb can be there. That's a really good balance. Of course, they just brought Colin McHugh, the Georgia native, back to the Atlanta Braves. And I know Alex Anthopoulos was quoted last night as saying that he had spoken with Will Smith about having Kenley come in as the closer, and that Will was fully supportive of it. So you love that as a teammate who just wants to find a way to win a second straight championship. Also, Kenley had a pretty good year. I know he's had struggles at different times the last few seasons. He was actually quite consistent for the Dodgers. As long as you have days where you can give him a rest here and there with that type of depth, Fran, you certainly have that in Atlanta. And finally, we talk about connections with Dave Dombrowski and Nick Castellanos. Alex Anthopoulos was a longtime executive with the Dodgers as well, so he knows Kenley, the person, what a great professional person Kenley is on and off the field. So certainly a great addition to the defending world champs. And maybe, Fran, they've got their eye on a third straight Dodgers Braves NLCS with a little bit of a uniform switch there between Freddie and Kenley for this round. Yeah,
some surprises, no doubt. And you're right about Kenley Jansen, probably the most consistent reliever in the Dodgers bullpen a year ago. And he got that cutter, bumped it up a couple miles per hour in the mid-90s back to the Kenley who we all know and love. Great stuff from Jon Morosi. I don't know when you sleep. Maybe we're going to let you go catch some sleep right now. We're going to take a break here on MLB Tonight. And when we come back, we'll head down to Fort Myers and hear from Do-Young Park. More on Carlos Correa. He's now a Minnesota Twin. That's next.
MLB